Hello everyone and welcome back to Planet Coaster. We will be pretty much wrapping up the initial section here this episode, and what we're going to be doing is adding a new stall to the slum area, and this one is going to be a chief beef, and this is going to pretty much round out the food stalls and gift stalls in the first section. So continuing on with the standard kind of amalgamation of just different parts and different scenery objects to make buildings interesting and somewhat detailed looking for the time that we have. And this is a relatively small structure, so it actually didn't take too long. And I think by now, after struggling through making the train depot for our tram to lead our people into another area, at this point, I think I'm kind of used to the sci-fi theme set, and also these more simple structures are a little bit quicker to do in general, and so you kind of gain confidence. And when you're doing anything artistic or anything kind of creative, confidence is kind of a very large factor in that. If you're building not very well that day, or if you're building kind of slower than you want, your confidence level goes down, and that actually just affects your performance completely and overall. So, going into it with some fun and some confidence, I think is probably one of the best things to do when you are building in general. So do keep that in mind when you are playing Planet Coaster. Try not to get overly stressed. I do, but I think that's just because I want to try and make something great for you guys, so you guys can enjoy it and I can enjoy it. But that's just me. Scenery objects, of course, great to cover large swaths of like the backside of the building, the kind of the unimportant side of the buildings that the guests aren't seeing. So, we can kind of get away with a little bit more there. Awnings, the tin roof, kind of selling the whole hodgepodge set of structures, running own, custom little pipes in an area, and little circuit boards kind of tucked in the backside there, just give it a little bit more depth. Now, here we're using the large water tower, and the large water tower, again, we want to try and mix a little bit of that Western theme, kind of out in the sticks, area of the high-tech world, but also, still surround it with a hodgepodge of high-tech industry elements that kind of make it look otherworldly. At least that's what I'm going for. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't so much, but, by now we've built so much stuff that the park, you can see, looks pretty good as a whole piece, and really that's what you're looking for. Try not to worry about, one or two buildings. Put 20 buildings together, and you get yourself some detail. Now, we don't want to have this initial section just floating off in space. You would want that in Elite Dangerous, but this is Planet Coaster, so we want things to be grounded and things to be kind of have a surrounding that makes somewhat of logical sense. And what I'm doing here is designing 4 or so rough shapes that we're going to use as a template to make kind of background scenery objects. These aren't objects that the guests are going to be interacting with. This is actually, I think you guys suggested, a skyline that should go around this initial spot. That way it feels a little bit more claustrophobic, it feels a little bit more closed in, and also we can kind of hide the ugly bits that's in the park using these elements here and create kind of a two-dimensional far off scenery objects that's actually still close, but because of the scaling on them that I'm going to try and accomplish, it looks like giant skyscrapers just kind of off in the distance that you can't really ever walk towards. And the backside is kind of the outer wall section of the settlement. And so this serves two purposes here. Now, the detailing on each of these are, a little bit different, trying to handcraft it as much as possible, but also using more broad shapes, broad structures on this one. And that's to try and keep the detail level a little lower so they feel maybe a little farther away. And that is, a little bit of a trick in, say, painting, something that you would do. For example, if you paint like a landscape painting. I know I'm getting into something that's not Planet Coaster, but humor me for a little bit. I am a painter, and that's what I was trained in, so I'm going to relate it to this. So, for example, landscape painting. If you're drawing a beautiful Bob Ross painting, for example, you're going to be putting less detail on the things farther away because you want them to fall backwards into the painting. You want more detail on things that are closer to you because you want them to kind of pop forward into the painting, and that's kind of the same mindset that you go into when you're making some scenery objects like this. Or if you want to translate it to, say, sculpting, like the large sculptings on like a cathedral or something where the sculptures are very high and far away. You want them to actually be so far relieved that they potentially actually show the image from a farther distance, and they might read better from a farther distance, but up close they make no sense at all. And that's just an interesting perspective thing, and something that we're trying to accomplish, at least somewhat. Larger vents, larger window sections here, so they read from a distance. Up close, not so much. Like, some of these wall sections here look to have multiple floors on them. And up close, you're like, well, that window doesn't make sense. It's a wall piece with 3 windows, one on the floor, one at the mid-level, one at the upper level, and they're supposed to be read from a distance. So it's supposed to be 3 separate floors in that section, and that's why we have so many windows. And plus at night, it just looks really cool. And really, the rule of cool will always apply, and therefore, that's why they're built like this. That's all I'm getting at. Some of these buildings are a little bit more industrial. We have some more struts, metal bits colored orange to kind of stick out from the rest of the building. Didn't have enough time to color all of these buildings just yet, but I'll probably do that a little bit on my own time in between episodes. But the exposed kind of caged elements, we can run piping in these. You could potentially put storage sections on them or containers of some sort if you want to make it even more industrial. I'm just running piping just to make it look a little bit simple. And also still continuing on with adding, window elements, lighting elements, even insetting some doors because, it might not be a balcony, but from a distance, it might just look like a little room that was attached on the side, possibly some tin awnings. That way, just, get some more layers on there. And you can even use larger scenery pieces just to slap on larger bits of details as you go through. Here's some of the piping I was talking about a little bit earlier, just, running that up and then realizing, hey, we could put a little tin roof over this. That way it looks a little bit more industrial and a little bit more hodgepodge of a structure in those areas, even at the bottom down there, just to sell that a little bit better. This one actually goes to the floor, and so I figured it might be cool to have possibly like a drilling machine on this, and so that's why we have these vertical pipes going up, and then we'll attach an engine, almost as if that's the main drill there, attach a main pipe to it, and then a little drill bit here at the bottom. They did add that, so I finally found a use for it. I haven't actually used that piece at all so far in the release version of Planet Coaster, and you'd be surprised on how many pieces I have not used yet in this game. Granted, they're different theme sets, and we might not ever use them for the sci-fi build, but, some people might find an interesting use for them, and I suggest experimenting. I'm kind of in my comfort zone of sci-fi building right now, and I just want to get this area done, and so that's why we're kind of doing a little bit more repetition in the shapes, but still trying different combinations to get different effects. I do like using the sci-fi signs. They do have a nice little neon orange glow to them, and so from a distance, they look pretty cool. Custom roof piece here using some scenery elements, different tiers on it to make it look a little bit more industrial as well. Boxy shapes, combining with more cylinders and things like that. This is the final building, which actually Planet Coaster decided to crash on me, so you're not going to see this one completed until the end of the speed build, which we're actually coming to here in about 30 seconds or so. So there's that. But, when you're trying to do this stuff, try and mix up your shapes. Try and mix up, different depth layers, roundness, boxiness, wider footprints, narrower footprints, and tall, spindly things, possibly. And it would look cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at it in real time. I'm actually pretty excited to show you guys the nighttime because I think that is the best view so far. Okay, here we are past the speed build section of today's episode, taking a look at the overall scenery of the entrance to our sci-fi park, and it came together really well. I'm a little surprised. Again, sci-fi is not my greatest theme. Not 100% confident. I'm getting there, and I think going forward, I have a okay visual palette to pull from, but hopefully we'll just get better and better as we go through. It's very dense, and that's probably one of my favorite things about this initial section. It's way more compact than, say, the Renaissance Fair. The Renaissance Fair is very spread out, very wide paths, kind of swaths of buildings, and this is just a jumbled mess, and I actually really like it. And let's go ahead and take a little bit of a closer look. Now, the FPS is actually already starting to take a hit. There's a decent amount of objects in here. There are also some SFX, such as lighting and things, which do affect FPS in the long run. So be mindful of that going, on with your own builds. I hope that Frontier just keeps optimizing their game. Now, I do want to color these and make them not so gray, and maybe bring in spots of color, add a whole bunch of more signs, whole bunch of little details to tie it in, and also get rid of some of these grass areas. But overall, these buildings are 100% done. This is kind of the final layout, and I hope you guys enjoyed this initial process. And as always, I want some suggestions for the later bits. But this is the Chief Beef. We have a nice large sign there. Some additional signs going off that, and I do want to add even more custom signs as we go through. These are our custom kind of backdrop pieces. Now, I don't want to get too close because they're not meant to be looked at very closely, but from a distance and also at ground level. Whoa, that's the fry shop there. You can just see how much room they're taking up. And they're just always there. They're just kind of always there in the background. I don't know why every single one of my shops are closed, but they are. And, you have a little bit there. You have some more poking up in that way. You can see some of the industrial elements showing through. And then over here, added that by the station just to kind of cap off this direction. And if you look back there, there's some more of them. And overall, it's just a good little framing element. Give us a little bit of a skyline. I mean, we're not playing city skylines, but we can basically play city skylines using this. Sure, the people aren't cars, but it works, right? We do have a train at least. At least we're getting there. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little bit. I will show you guys what it looks like at night, which I have to say looks beautiful, due to the wonderful lighting engine that is in Planet Coaster here, if I can speak. So there we go. This is how it all looks. Now, I do want to add some more brighter lights down here near the path, so it's not quite as creepy looking in the middle. More neon lights, but just the skyline in general being bright, vibrant as you come through the entrance, which we can do down here. And just as you come in, it's very reminiscent of like Neo Tokyo, just bright lights, signs, skyline off in the distance. We might add some little signs to those as well, but I do want to move on to the rest of the park. I can't spend hundreds of hours just building this initial thing and be like, okay guys, series over, and then never build a roller coaster for y'all. So yeah, I think that's going to do us for this episode of Planet Coaster. If you guys enjoy my stuff, feel free to subscribe to my channel for more creative goodness such as this. Go ahead and leave a comment down below on what you might want to add, change, and potentially plans for the future of our wonderful park that we are building together. Go ahead and leave a like if you want to see more. And I will see you all in the next episode.